Hi there VC, Steve Whitty here. Time for another video. It seems like buses aren't, I don't do a video for a while, then it all comes at once. Yes, it's Friday morning and I've decided to do another video. What I'm going to do the next maybe few weeks is sort of catch up a little bit on myself with purchases that I've made this year, finds. Particularly from June onwards, I've sort of reined it in a little bit. I haven't brought as much this year as I normally do. I mentioned in previous videos, I'm in the midst of decluttering. That's not going very well. It's sort of stopped at the moment, but you always end up accumulating stuff. So I'm going to show you 15 albums, which I've got hold of in the past few months. So let's start off with XTC Mama, sorry, I get it confused with Aria, Mama. And this is the first of the post end of touring albums. It came out in '83. Best known track on here is the single Love on a Farmer's Boy's Wages. This is very much now Andy Partridge sort of taking control a little bit. It was he who had all sorts of issues with that touring. He'd suffered from terrible stage fright, and it affected him, and he decided enough was enough. That led to Terry Chambers leaving, because a drummer without a band, without a touring band, is not much cop at all. So they're good album in XTC's quality stuff. And I also found a copy of the Big Express. Now, this is an American edition. It's not in the circular sleeve. Best known track, All You Pretty Girls. I love the Everyday Story, Small Town. This is a Swindon album. For those who don't know, Swindon is a railway town, and that's where the band hail from. And it's sort of like a bit like a homage to the fact that from the railways. Album's just turned 40 years old, and there's a great article in Shindig magazine if you want to seek that out. Next up, Isaac Hayes, To Be Continued. It was one album that I didn't have. It's more just to sort of fill a gap in a collection. Sort of typical Isaac Hayes, I think. On Stacks through Polydor in the UK. Yeah, I think it does a version of The Look of Love, and then includes You've Lost That Loving Feeling. Sort of very much in the vein of previous albums. So, yeah, it's okay. Album that gets reissued a lot. This is Lucid, and it's their album Heavy Equipment. I think it's a one and done album. I don't really know much about the band. I think they are British. It's sort of heavy blues rock of the late 60s, but it's one of those albums that sort of gained a bit of a following. It has been reissued a few times. It was reissued last year, but I've got a 2019 edition on Magic Box. So yeah, it's what it is. If you like sort of like heavy blues rock, this is worth checking out. If not, then probably just give it a listen on a streaming site. Talking of blues rock, found a copy of Paul Kossoff's Backstreet Crawler. This is his sort of debut solo album. Post 3 came out in 1973. And yeah, it's got good stuff. It features like Trevor Burton, Alan White on here. Jess Roden's on here as well. Tetsu's on here. Tommy Kirk, John Martin playing track Time Away. Molten Gold, even got Andy Fraser on bass as well. A lot of people were sort of rallying around the breakup of 3 affected Kossoff badly, and he was having addiction problems, which sadly I think caught up with him. It affected his body, when he died on the plane in 76, around this time, December 76, I think. Yeah, but this is good again, good sort of blues album, a bit more experimental. I see him with the Strat there. I believe Dave Murray from Iron Maiden got hold of one of his Strat. I don't know if it's this one, but he got hold of one of Bukossov's Strats in the early days of Maiden. That was the instrument he played. I'm a big fan of Gillan, particularly in the 80s. They were one of my favourite bands, but I didn't really know much about the Ian Gillan band. So this is this Clear Air Turbulence, released on Ireland in 1977. When Ian Gillan left Deep Purple, he quit the music biz. The whole experience towards the end of Deep Purple so traumatised him, he just had it enough. So he went to set up a business. He set up Kingsway Studios and other business ventures. They started to go wrong. Then he found sort of redemption. Roger Glover did the Butterfly Ball album, and there was going to be a live show. Ronnie Dio appeared on the album, but pulled out last minute of the concert. And Glover didn't know what to do. He thought, well, I wonder if Ian would come back and sing. And Ian Gillan performed. He changed, he cut off his long hair. He did look like the businessman's suit. And that sort of inspired him to set up his own band. Now, the Ian Gillan band was sort of a fusion band, which was all the rage, mid-70s. And this is part of it. And he followed this up. Now, with Scarabaeus, 1978. So the band was Ian Gillan, Ray Fenwick on guitars, John Gustafson on bass. He played with Roxy Music, Quatermass, the big three. Colin Towns, keyboards, and Mark Nassif on drums. Again, this sort of follows the jazz fusion reign. But this would be the last album by the Ian Gillan band. Colin Towns came in with a song which was a bit more traditional Deep Purple-ish type song, which Ian Gillan liked, but the other three didn't. So Ian Gillan resigned from his own band and set up Gillan. And there you go. Gary Moore. This is Run for Cover. This from 84, 85. I think it is 85. This was a commercial breakthrough for him. Big single on here is Out in the Fields, which he recorded with Phil Lynott. They'd made up, because they made up, that fell out a few years ago. And this would be the last hit that Phil Lynott would have before he passed away. And then followed up with the title track was another single as well, minor hit single. But it sort of like was a big pickup for Gary Moore, commercial-wise. Always been a well-respected guitarist, but he never wasn't really a person that you'd expect to have hits, but on this album he did. Moving on to that more rock right side, out with £2 bins. This is the Scorpions and Blackout. It's just typical rock. I mean, I think if I was paying £10, I probably wouldn't have looked at it, but for a couple of quid, I'll have it. It plays okay. Cover's a bit knackered. This is 82, and I think this was sort of breakthrough in America, or big breakthrough chart-wise in America. I think they've always been popular, but this came top 20. And I'm just thinking, what's the sort of big singles, big hits off here? Blackout's there. Can't Live Without You. Yeah, it's just like typical Scorpions album in a way of that period. Next is Jimi Hendrix Experience Radio 1. This came out, I think, in 89. It's on Castle Communications. Castle Communications, and I've got another album that's part of the same group. Was sort of like a reissue album. They did a lot of reissues of sort of classic albums, maybe put them in twofers or whatever. In the 80s, I think used to sort of try and keep vinyl going at that time. As it says, it's Radio 1, and this is sort of Radio 1 sessions that were done between 67, I think primarily 66, 67. So So you do have Stone Free. They do a version of the Radio 1 theme on here. Hear My Train Coming, Hoochie Coochie Man, Purple Haze, Foxy Lady, Hey Joe. Yeah, sort of that those first two albums, sort of tracks that are on here. But it's an interesting curio to hear it actually quite raw, because in Radio 1 sessions were literally you just recorded it in one take. There might be a little bit of mixing, but it was just how it was. That's what makes these anything Radio 1 session, BBC sessions, worth getting hold of. This is a reissue. This is Styx Serpent. This is on RCA. This is, I think, might have been the second or third album. I can't remember when it first came out. This is 1980, so this is on the back of like a Cornerstone and Babe being hit singles. So they decided to reissue this. And this is an early album because John Krulewski is on guitar here before Tommy Scott. He's appeared with Styx. They were pop, they were rock, prog, punk rock, with a hint of pop sensibilities. This is good. I do like this. I do prefer early Styx. One of those bands that you get hold of and you just think, oh, it's worth listening to. Changing Tacks. It's Bill Withers, and this is the Menagerie album. This came out in 1977, I believe. Yep. And this is one of his later albums, and this opens with Lovely Day. It's a track that is always the one that's picked up. It might have been his biggest hit single. And it's been reissued in various remixes. It's probably kept him in royalty checks for the rest of his life. Absolutely wonderful. It's a good album. It's a typical Bill Withers album. Really good, upmarket, a good feel good factor. So listen to the songs, even if the songs can be might be a bit on a downbeat subject. You always feel better after listening to a Bill Withers album. This is an upgrade. I found myself a mono copy of Mr. Tambourine Man by the Byrds, the debut. Mr. Neil Mendes, or N Mendes, it might be Neil, might be Nigel. Used to own this. He looked after it. It's in really good condition. Yeah, I sort of replaced my 1973 Embassy reissue. There's not much you can really say about it. Obviously, you've got Mr. Tambourine Man. I feel a whole lot better. Does end with We'll Meet Again, but I suppose it's just a case of filling songs. Obviously a big thing with Dylan, there's a picture of Dylan on the back. But it's one of those albums, I thought I could pull the trigger and just get an upgrade on. Now, I mentioned about the Jimi Hendrix, about the Castle. I'm not sure if this was part of it. I think I said so, but this is Deep Purple Scandinavian Nights. This is a double live album recorded in Stockholm. The concert was in 1970. It may have been issued in 1972. It mentioned 72 on here. But it's like classic lineup, Mark II lineup. And you don't get many tracks for a double album. Ring That Neck is 32 minutes. This is an album that was made for CD, I think. Speaking Into the Fire, Painted Black, so do a version of that. Mandrake Root, which is again 28 minutes long. Child in Time and Black Knight. A lot of noodling, it is fair to say. And you get, well, I was listening to this, I get the feeling, I'm not sure, I haven't seen Deep Purple in later years now. Do they do a lot of noodling, or is they just play the songs as they are now? Because I get a feeling, I don't think today, especially given how much you pay for a ticket, fans would sit for 32 minutes for one song. I don't know, let me know what you think. And the final album I'm going to show in this video is Soft Machine 4. This is a Music on Vinyl reissue. I've got first two, and I've got a third as well. So I just thought I'd build that up. This is the last album that features Robert Wyatt on drums. He got kicked out pretty soon after. It's sort of like his jazz fusion, probably more jazz than anything, and that's the direction Mike Routledge was going. But it's not a bad album at all, so I'm pleased to have it. So there you go, VC. Those are some albums I've purchased since June last year. Let me know what you think. Did I make the right call? Well, anyhow, I'll end it there. Look after yourselves. Keep spinning. More importantly, keep on smiling.